While you're here, so stick around.
We've got a video message.
I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this.
Hit the button, baby. Stay cool. This is a Thor News presentation. Thor News presents
Party Dance Time.
Washington Post, how property rights in outer space may lead to a scramble to exploit the moon's resources. I don't know if you guys have heard, but Congress passed the Space Act of 2015. I haven't read much about it. We're about to do that right now, but I get the feeling everybody is about to get screwed. And you may say, hey, Thor, why is that big of a deal? They're mining outer space and the moon. And well, let me tell you something. There are over $1 quadrillion worth of materials floating around in the asteroid belt. Talking gold, silver, precious metals, titanium, Superman alloys, shit you can't even imagine. Magical relics, mystical artifacts, all that shit's floating around in outer space, man. Demigod bones, you name it, it's out there. And the same people who exploited our planet for oil and natural gas are probably going to be exploiting outer space. Go ahead and put your cheerleading skirt on and grab your pom-poms and let's go. Did you ever ask yourself, like, hey dude, how do all these companies own all this oil that's in the ground? Technically, isn't it everybody's? I would say yes, but I'm not a corporate lawyer, and they would say hell no. This week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed legislation known as the Space Act of 2015, the U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act. And as you guys know, our Congress likes to do a bit of 1984 doublespeak. So if it says the U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness, whatever that C word is, man. If it says that, that means they're going to go ahead and cut out all competition, and it'll basically be down to like 2 companies, which recognizes and promotes the rights of U.S. companies to engage in the exploration and extraction of space resources from asteroids and other celestial bodies. Oh, joy. That is a huge win for private space exploration companies, especially for the companies with upcoming plans to tap into the economic potential of the moon. That's wonderful. So you're telling me that NASA has no interest in going back to the moon, but like Goldman Sachs, Kellogg Brown and Root, Boeing, and Lockheed Martin are chomping at the bit to get there and extract all of its precious metals, fine minerals, and magical stuff? Wonderful. NASA, what the hell happened to you? I'm asking, as a friend who's concerned. That's because the legislation, in its definition of space resources, is sufficiently broad to include resources found on the lunar surface. In short, the moon could now be in play for some of America's most innovative space exploration companies. I don't even know what that means, man. Like, I don't think we've seen a whole lot of space innovation in the last 40 years or so. I mean, have you? Maybe I just haven't been keeping up, you know? As far as I know, we still depend on Russia to get our astronauts asterisk to the International Space Station. One of those companies is Moon Express, a privately funded commercial space company with an audacious plan to mine the surface of the moon. As Bob Richards, co-founder and CEO of Moon Express, told me, minerals and water found on the moon would be technically classified as a space resource. All right, now why the hell would you need moon water? We still got water on Earth. And as far as I know, you can desalinate water in the ocean, so we should have plenty of water if we can get over the technology hump. So why anyone would want to spend millions and billions of dollars to get to moon water, I don't know. Does it get you high? Does it give you a buzz? Well then, it's probably going to be illegal, I would guess. The key to unlocking economic potential of the moon is the water on the moon. All right, I'm confused here. Richard said, water is the oil of the solar system. Oh God. Soon we'll have moon ISIS. That's wonderful. Have giant fights. Dick Cheney will be up on the moon beating off. Oh man. Can you imagine if, like, transhumanism was real and Dick Cheney got to live forever? Okay, don't imagine that. And can be used to create rocket fuel that changes the economics of space resources, not just on the moon, but throughout the solar system. So our initial goal is to locate and learn how to mine and stockpile the water on the moon. We've effectively, after our first gusher. What? We are effectively after our first gusher. That's what she said. That's what he said. She said. She said that's what he said. And it's not just the Moon Express interested in finding water on the moon. Why are we talking about the moon? There's trillions of dollars all over the... you could just magnetize asteroids to the dark side of the moon and then bring them back to Earth with your little robots. Whatever. And it's not just Moon Express interested in finding water on the moon. Why are we talking about water on the moon? This is stupid. Mining the moon for water has attracted the attention of Shackleton Energy Resources, which suggests that there are billions of tons of water ice on the poles of the moon that might be converted into rocket fuel. What? What is... am I missing something? Why are we... Yeah, I mean, you got mountains of gold, silver, diamonds floating around the asteroid belt, and you guys are getting boners for moon water? Is that like moonshine but better? What am I missing, people? Somebody tell me. Moreover, NASA has 2 different mission concepts for extracting water from the lunar surface. Wonderful. If there's ever going to be a human lunar colony, then finding water on the moon is going to be a priority. It's just cheaper and easier to have a source of water on the moon than it is to bring water to the moon. Well, what if the moon's hollow and you guys go to crack it looking for oil and the whole thing just breaks apart and then the oceans go crazy and tons of people die? Well, then you might be like, oops, we made a mistake. In introducing the Space Act legislation for a vote Monday night, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, where have I heard that name before? I don't remember McCarthyism, but I remember he was a total dick, invoked the inspiring examples of both Kitty Hawk and Chuck Yeager, breaking the sound barrier, and cited the extraordinary innovation already happening around commercial space exploration. Yeah, there's nothing that celebrates freedom like corporations. Am I right, people? And when I say people, I mean corporations. Man, 2015 is so screwed up. Foobar. With this law, I have great hope for the future of space exploration. You know, whenever I visit the Mojave Air and Spaceport, where so many of our advancements are happening, I'm overwhelmed by the feeling that the future is now. Well, yeah, it's gotta be, because we haven't done jack shit since 1972 with our space program, so future's either now, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, or whenever TPTV allows us to have a space program again, you know? That's when the future is, I guess. Upon the firm foundation of the Space Act, I know they and others will lead us far, and that our limits are only bound by what we can imagine as we continue to journey to the stars. And that our limits are only bound by what we can imagine as we continue our journey to the stars. Why would you have faith in corporations ever to do the right thing? You know, I mean, the only thing they give a crap about is money, making money. And they're okay with that. And, of course, bribing our politicians to write their own laws. When it comes to outer space, however, there's the matter of a pesky little document known as the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, to which the United States is a signatory. The Outer Space Treaty indirectly suggests that the commercial space companies don't own the rights to any resources they find in outer space. The treaty states that no celestial body is subject to national appropriation by claim of sovereignty by means of use or occupation, or by any other means. You see, the Space Act of 2015 carefully upskirts this issue by specifically making a disclaimer that the United States does not thereby assert sovereignty, or sovereign, or exclusive rights, or jurisdiction over, or the ownership of any celestial body. Clever, right? What? If there's no U.S. sovereign claim, then the Outer Space Treaty can't be applicable to private U.S. companies that assert a similar type of claim. What the crap? Okay, so countries can't claim resources or celestial bodies, but corporations can? Yeah, it seems about the way we do things. When asked about a hypothetical example in which a Chinese company or even the Chinese government might contest the rights of a U.S. company to space resources, Richard suggests that the Space Act would provide a sufficient legal basis. It's hard to imagine what challenge China or any other country could mount against the U.S. legislation, which is about rights to materials obtained, not territory, and is really just codifying principles and rights already in the 1967 Outer Space Treaty that have been demonstrated by multinational activities on the moon as applicable to the private sector. Wait, man, this article's long. Nearly 50 years ago, of course, we didn't know anything about the economic potential of space, and nobody was seriously talking about humans as an interplanetary species. Certainly, there were not any private companies angling for a piece of the action. Space exploration was solely the preserve of sovereign governments, and we referred to astronauts as the envoys of mankind. More like the invoice of mankind. We still have astronauts, they just don't go to space. Isn't that weird? I think it is. The prevailing sentiment, as expressed in the Outer Space Treaty, was that outer space should belong to all of humanity, not just the first corporation to venture into space and plant a flag on the surface of a celestial body. Great. Wait, so you mean to tell me that NASA and the United States government has been telling us that going back to the moon is far too expensive, but a bunch of corporations have a boner to make money off of the moon? That's weird, don't you think? Yes. What's happening now, in essence, is a sea change in how we think about outer space. To convince private commercial space exploration companies to invest millions of dollars, there have to be economic incentives involved. Wait, what? Are we gonna subsidize this shit? You can't be serious, right? In short, financial backers of these companies have to be able to realize a profit from their investments if innovation is going to happen. That's the reality. Or they could be like Facebook and Twitter and never actually turn a profit, but still be worth billions on the books. Don't you ever wonder how weird that is? That's pretty weird. Richard cites the rights of fishing boats in international waters as an economic template for the Space Act. The ships are owned by companies flying flags of nations under which laws they are bound. They have a right to peacefully fish in international waters that they don't own, but they have a right of ownership of the fish once obtained. Oh man, now I can finally bust out my conspiracy theory video that I've been waiting 3 years to do. That is excellent news. This fishing analogy is a useful one. Man, something's rotten in Denmark. It smells like lutefisk. It suggests that we're simply extending the same economic principles used on Earth to the moon and beyond. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. If there's one thing that has led to the state of the entire world, I would say it's Earth's economic principles. You know what I'm saying? Not creating new principles. Seafaring nations are now spacefaring nations. Moon Express even refers to the moon as the 8th continent. suggesting that people should think about the moon the same way they think about other 7 continents of the planet, except for Antarctica. Don't think about Antarctica, don't talk about Antarctica, don't study Antarctica, just move on. And Planetary Resources, an asteroid mining company, refers to the off-planet economy. Yay, water on the moon. Through the anus of exploration, there have always been commercial incentives. Would the untapped economic potential of America have been possible without similar types of incentives? Probably. One example, cited by backers of the Space Act, is the Homestead Act of 1862, which paved the way for Americans to search for gold and timber. Man, must be hard to search for wood. Governments, they say, have an important role to play here by passing legislation that catalyzes rather than stifles growth and innovation. Well, if there's one thing that our politicians are good at, it's raising debt and causing problems for everybody. For supporters of the Space Act, the year 2017 looms large. For me, too. That's exactly 50 years since the passage of the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. And it's also the deadline for winning the $30 million Google Lunar X Prize. If privately owned companies are going to be landing on the surface of the moon within the next 24 months, they're going to want assurances that their innovative efforts now are going to have an economic payoff later. All right, I'm gonna have to cover this story again, where I get actual just breakdown of the what the Space Act does and doesn't say, instead of like a hand job over moon water. Whatever, man. This article pissed me off. Signing off. Okay.
Stay cool.
I don't know if you know this. Thor News is for winners, and that's why you're here. So stick around.
We've got a video message.
I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this.
Hit the button, baby. Stay cool. This is a Thor News presentation. Thor News presents Party Dance Time.
Washington Post. How property rights in outer space may lead to a scramble to exploit the moon's resources. I don't know if you guys have heard, but Congress passed the Space Act of 2015. I haven't read much about it. We're about to do that right now. But I get the feeling everybody is about to get screwed. And you may say, hey, Thor, why is that big of a deal? They're mining outer space and the moon. And well, let me tell you something. There are over $2 quadrillion worth of materials floating around in the asteroid belt. I'm talking gold, silver, precious metals, titanium, Superman alloys, shit you can't even imagine. Magical relics, mystical artifacts, all that shit's floating around in outer space, man. Demigod bones, you name it, it's out there. And the same people who exploited our planet for oil and natural gas are probably going to be exploiting outer space. Go ahead and put your cheerleading skirt on, and grab your pom-poms, and let's go. Did you ever ask yourself, like, hey, dude, how do all these companies own all this oil that's in the ground? Technically, isn't it everybody's? I would say yes, but I'm not a corporate lawyer, and they would say, hell no. This week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed legislation known as the Space Act of 2015, the U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act. And as you guys know, our Congress likes to do a bit of 1984 doublespeak. So if it says the U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness, whatever that C word is, man, if it says that,